So how's Pride been for you so far?
Pride's been good. I mean, it's just begun, so I haven't done too much Pride related yet, but I've got some plans throughout the month. And I'm going to be going on tour as well, so I can't
That's
wait
exciting.
to have some Pride fun with all my fans at the shows and stuff. So yeah, what about you?
Well, I started it off really, really with a bang because I played Mighty Hoopla. I
Amazing.
played both days and I played the main stage,
Oh
which is
wow,
kind
that's
of
so
a
cool.
really exciting thing. I guess like yeah, for a queer artist at a queer festival in
Yeah,
London, like it's kind of like the best place
yeah. I've never
to
been
do it.
before. What's the vibe like? Is it
It's very, very gay.
amazing? I need to go next year,
Yeah,
definitely.
exactly. That's why like it was the best way to start off Pride
Yeah,
because it's such a queer festival,
100%.
just so many queer people, and
Hmm.
it's amazing to have like all of these throwback pop acts there as well as like new people.
Mm.
There was people like Sophie Ellis Bextor
Hmm.
and the Venga Boys,
Amazing. So
Aqua.
good. Oh man,
Literally the gayest of the gay
that sounds so
acts
good.
from the last 20 years. But yeah, it was really, really fun.
Amazing.
And I've got a new song coming out as well, just in time for Pride,
Amazing.
which comes out on the 9th of June.
Fab.
And yeah, it's called Flip.
I'll
So
pop it on my Pride playlist.
yeah, yeah. How would you say that your experience as a queer musician has influenced your music and your like art?
I think like I mean obviously just through storytelling and experiences, but I think like when I first started getting into music, I probably didn't realize that it was like my queerness like affecting it. But I spent probably a lot of time alone. I think I grew up as quite a lonely teenager because I
Hmm.
was queer and I had this part of me that I was kind of like not ready to talk about with other people and like hiding a huge part of me. So I spent
Hmm.
a lot of time, like going up into my room and like getting my guitar out, and that was how I kind of like talked about love and talked about the things I was feeling.
Hmm.
And I think in turn it probably made me like way more introspective in my songwriting because I spent a lot of time in my head, and now I'm kind of like wired like that.
Right.
So now I still write like that now, really introspective and overthinking and all of
But
that.
I think it's amazing because it gives, I think being queer gives you a different perspective on the world. And I
Exactly.
think that's why so many artists, musicians, poets, playwrights, painters, like all different types of
100%.
creatives throughout history have been queer.
It's so
And I think
important.
that it's because you kind of like are approaching life from outside the box. So it's true, you go into this space of introspection and like questioning things, and I think it gives you a really unique perspective on like
Yeah,
art
totally.
and making music and writing songs. So
100%.
it's like kind of a challenge growing up, like in your teen years, like you were
Hmm.
saying, but it kind of works out in the end because you end up with a unique perspective on things.
Yeah,
So
100%. I
it's kind
always
of
say
cool.
like in school we probably tried so hard to fit in with everyone else, and then as
Yeah.
soon as you leave school and you come out into the big world, you're searching for all of those things that made you different, and you're
Yeah,
trying to reconnect with all those parts of yourself.
absolutely.
And yeah, it's really beautiful. It's the best thing about you.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
were there any specific LGBTQIA plus musicians or songs that inspired you while you were growing up?
Definitely. I
Mm.
would say George Michael was a big
Hmm.
one for me, and obviously Fast Love was a big queer anthem, and Outside. Yeah, I would say that he was probably my biggest influence that way. Um, it was amazing to see people like Elton John as well
Yeah.
doing his thing. And yeah, over the years, like now it feels like we're in a space where there's so many queer artists and the
Hmm.
queerness is being really celebrated, but for so long it wasn't. I feel like it's only in the last like 3 years that
Hmm.
queerness has become properly accepted as a part of, mainstream music.
Absolutely.
But yeah, how about you?
I think it was funny. Obviously, I was really aware of people like Elton John and George Michael and stuff, but I don't think and I love those artists.
But you didn't relate to
But I
them.
didn't relate to them. I
Yeah.
didn't feel represented. I'm trying to think. Like, I mean, they're not queer, but I think when I was younger, I probably felt more represented by someone like as a lesbian, like Avril Lavigne, or like any teenage boy that was like
I
singing about
mean
being in
that
love with girls. Like, do you know what I mean? I probably
Avril
resonated more with
Lavigne is
like
the ultimate reference
yeah,
though, yeah.
exactly. Or even like Justin Bieber. Honestly, I probably related more to him because he's like singing songs about fancy and like other girls. You know what I mean? So and then it wasn't until like now, and I go back and I'm like connecting with queer artists on like a different level. So like
Mm,
someone like Joan Armatrading. I mean,
Right.
she's absolutely amazing. And then people like Arca and Sophie
Yeah,
in terms of like
absolutely.
production.
Yeah.
And like what we were saying before, I think like even those artists like Arca and Sophie, maybe a lot of the time it's not really about the lyrics and the song. You can still feel through the sounds that they grew up feeling different, and it's so channeled in their music. So, like you say, yeah, there's loads of artists now that I can relate to and connect to, and have really specific experiences that I relate to.
Absolutely. But it's nice now that we're in a space where finally, I think queer artists are being celebrated for their queerness rather than being told to suppress it like someone like Freddie Mercury or whatever.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And you look back and you think how many queer artists must there be who probably never got to talk about it.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's kind of cool. We're in a good moment right now.
100%. In your opinion, how important is queer representation in the music industry, both in terms of artists and lyrics and themes, and why?
I would say it's extremely important because it allows people to be themselves, and allowing
Totally.
people to be themselves is the most important and amazing gift that you can give any like human, whether they're an artist or not. And like I was just saying, it's tragic how many creatives there must be, how many like artists, singers, musicians, and songwriters there must be throughout history who've had to minimize their queerness out of fear of being ostracized or
Absolutely.
rejected or just bullied out of the mainstream. So I think it's so important for that to be celebrated now, and for that representation to be seen, so that people can realize that being queer is not unusual. It's actually very normal.
Absolutely.
And it exists throughout nature. All species have like, there's there's queer penguins.
Yeah.
So
And I think like you were saying earlier, just about the perspective, like it just makes for more interest in music as well. Like,
it does.
And I think, and it's so important that we have like accurate like accounts of experiences as well. Otherwise, like you're just left with, I mean, I love this song, but you're just left with like I Kissed a Girl 100 times, and that's like not an accurate representation of like
it's not
a queer experience at all. And like it's just so important that we have, yeah, every type of queer person writing songs.
Absolutely. I think it just makes for a richer and more exciting like musical landscape. So I think that, I think the lyrics, the themes, they need to be out there. They need to be, front and center. Like we shouldn't have to speak in metaphors and like,
No.
you know what I mean? For so long, I was always writing songs. I guess I was never like singing about girls or anything. But I only ever use like you pronouns. I never use like
same.
he, or anything like that, which is something I'm starting to slowly change now. But even now, I catch myself being like, "Oh no, I shouldn't say that because people won't like it or whatever." But so you end up censoring yourself almost, and I think that's not fun, because art shouldn't be censored, especially at the point of creation. So yeah, it's something, and also we have to normalize these things, because it is normal. It's just not normal to everybody else because we haven't presented it as normal. We ourselves are taught to censor ourselves, and I think it's really important to show like younger people that it's it is we are absolutely just as normal as everybody else.
I think also you could argue that queer people kind of need that representation, not more than others, but yeah, because I spent so much time like alone and by myself, and I found like solace and comfort in TV and music. And like when I think about like the crumbs of representation that I had like in TV and
Truly
like music
crumbs.
and stuff, like I would watch like compilations on YouTube of like every 1 minute like lesbian scene in like an hour-long episode of TV. Like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely,
and that's so sad. Like we deserve more than that. Like
we do. We really do deserve more than that. Yeah, because again, like throughout history, there have been so many queer like creatives, like in every art form, and we deserve to see ourselves.
Undiluted.
Yeah, exactly. Completely agree. How do you navigate the balance between creating music that represents your queerness and appealing to a broader audience?
Yeah, I mean, like we were saying, like I think come a long way from using like you in as the pronoun that I use for my love interest in songs and stuff. But now I just like, if you're sitting to a song and like limiting the songs that you listen to based on that, then more fool you. Like you're denying yourself of so much amazing music, like just because you don't specifically relate to that. It's about the feeling, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You know, and I'm telling you now, like, no one knows unrequited love like a fucking queer person.
It's true.
Fall in
It's
love with a
true.
straight person and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know. What about you?
I would say I guess like navigating the balance between queerness and appealing to a broader audience. The first thing that I did was like just use you pronouns rather than like he pronouns. That was the thing that I did. But I think, I mean, I still do that. I continue doing that largely because I feel like it's more inclusive
Yeah,
for
for
everybody. But I don't think that really in 2023 we should be trying to appeal to broader audiences.
exactly.
Like broader audiences will come from us authentically being ourselves actually, because I think that that's where we finally reach somewhere where we're doing something unique by being ourselves. So the more you that you can be, the better the piece of art that you make is. So I no longer try to appeal to a broader audience. If someone isn't interested in listening to what I do because of my queerness, then I'm like, good, thanks for letting me know, because I don't want you to listen to it actually. I'd rather lose audience members who aren't into what I'm doing and who aren't up for celebrating me for who I fully am, because, you know, I'm done with minimizing myself. You know, we don't need to do that anymore. So, and I think that's finally a place that we've reached in the world, in society, and in music, and as creatives, that we need to really like stand firm at. Like, this is a place that we've got to.
Absolutely.
No more minimizing, no more pandering. And I think that's an important stance to take.
100%. And I would say that for every artist, not just queer artists. Don't
100%.
pander to an audience. Like, that goes against the complete point of making art. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think there's this interview with David Bowie where he says exactly that. Like, if you're thinking about the audience, then you're not making art.
Exactly.
I'm paraphrasing there, but that's general message. Yeah, I think it's still very true today.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Cool. What do you believe is the responsibility of non-LGBTQIA plus musicians and industry professionals in terms of supporting and advocating for queer artists?
I think there's a big responsibility there. I think that non-queer people and non-LGBTQIA plus people, they have a duty in creating a space that feels safe and inclusive for everybody, because obviously queer artists are not the norm, and we haven't been the norm for a really long time, and us being accepted and having like a space to exist in is a very new thing. There's so many parts of the world, and even the UK, where queerness is still being oppressed. And so I think that it's super important for that kind of allyship from straight people, because with society, you know, the music industry and the charts, they should reflect what's happening in society. And if it should be equal for everybody. Like, why should one group feel oppressed and repressed and feel like they're not enough?
Totally. And there's like a duty to, support the shoulders that they stand on as well, because like there's so much music that has came from like queer movements out of like, sometimes like art comes out of like desperation, and that you find that a lot in queer communities, and also just like places where it was safe for queer people to be, like the disco movement, house movement.
I mean, I was literally just
punk,
about to say that.
All of that is
absolutely.
And there's so many people like and producers and stuff that'll be in a room and don't even know the kind of backstory of the music that they're making, and how much they have to like thank those people.
Absolutely. And people don't even realize that history. People don't realize the history of queerness in dance music and house music. I think like Beyonce's Renaissance really celebrates that queer heritage, really. Like that dance music, disco and house were built like by sort of queer artists and gay men specifically in like the US. So I think it's really important. It's really important to acknowledge that history and allow space for people to be themselves, because that's truly where the most exciting music comes from.
100%.
So yeah. What advice would you give to aspiring LGBTQIA plus musicians who are trying to find their voice and navigate the music industry?
I mean, I would start by saying, just like we were saying earlier, don't dilute yourself down
Mm,
for anyone. And I think especially as a queer musician, people are going to try and put you in boxes and kind of like tell you what they think you are, like, all the time, and you've just kind of got
yeah,
to,
absolutely.
constantly take the power back into your own hands and be able to for it to be you who's telling people who you are
Hmm.
constantly. Only you can define your journey,
Yeah, exactly. It's about bravery and
Mhm.
courage and defiance, really.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, because again, like a lot of these movements, the disco movement, the house
Mhm.
movement, and stuff like that, they were defiant and they were about
Exactly.
rebellion.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really important part of the spirit of queerness is to like, because you're kind of rebelling against the norm anyway,
Mhm.
right? By being a queer person, you're
Mhm.
like you're like political
Yeah.
without even
Even though,
wanting or choosing to be political. Like your identity
well,
is
that's it.
political. And I would say that you have to lean into that and just be like, this is who I am, not take no for an answer. And yeah,
Mhm.
really fight for your space and your right to exist.
Definitely. And I think it's something I've struggled definitely as well. I've been put in a box and, wanting to be seen as an artist first and foremost. But I think always I just like remind myself how much my music is helping someone, a queer person,
Yeah.
struggling with their identity, and how much like my music would mean to them. And you just got to always think of that person and your younger self and like
Mm,
look at yourself.
absolutely. I would definitely say that like what I'm doing now, I get so many messages from like queer people all around the world, like saying that what I do inspires them, and that really makes my job worth doing.
Hmm.
Because obviously, like being a musician, there's ups, there's downs.
Hmm.
It's not constant.
So I was thinking about this. Can allyship exist within, like, is that within the queer community as well? Because I find most of the positive experiences have been from other queer people, and I've always felt like I've got a leg up and like support from other people in the community, and those are the most positive experience I've had. Like, like most of the support slots that I've ever got have been like I went onto with like Ollie Years and Years, Moona, and I was meant to go onto a Fletcher, and those are all queer artists. And then we met at the Emanike Pride camp.
Yeah.
Those are the most positive experiences I've had as a queer person, being like uplifted by other people.
Other
Yeah,
queer people
exactly.
who recognize you as a queer person and give
Yeah,
you space as a queer person.
and know that we need
Absolutely.
opportunities and using their platform.
Yeah. So I feel like there should be more allyship from
Hmm.
non-queer people, non-queer artists. But I don't think that there's enough.
Yeah,
Really and
absolutely.
truly. Like if I'm just going to be blunt about
Hmm.
it, I don't think that there's enough.
100%.
I think that there's lots of non-queer artists and people in the music industry that still feel like, oh, if I do that, then that's kind of gonna put me in a box or something
Hmm.
like that. But I think it's changing now, but there needs to be more,
Yeah,
definitely, without
absolutely.
doubt.
If there's like 8 songwriters in a room, you can at least have one of them be queer. Like, come on, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like a couple of queer artists that I would say are really amazing would be Hope Tala and Rina Sawayama, who are great. And
Hmm.
actually, we worked with Rina
Yeah, yeah,
at
yeah.
the Pride camp that Emanike
She's
did
so
a few
good.
years ago. She's amazing.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's amazing to see like queer artists of color starting to break through as well with Arlo Parks
Thriving.
as well.
Yeah, I
So
love Arlo.
yeah,
So.
so I think that there's some good people out there doing some amazing stuff and
Hmm.
being uncompromising in their art, and it's great to see. It's
Exactly.
inspiring.
You included.
It's doing my best, you know.
Nice.